What's going on YouTube? It's Robert Hall, and today we're going to go over all the new flash equipment from Godox that's designed specifically for the Fuji platform. So we previously did a video on the Godox TT350, which you can see here. However, now we're going to talk about their newest updates, which are the TT685, the V860 version 2, and the new X1 controller. Now in previous videos, I've discussed a lot of this equipment already, but I've never done a deep dive into the X1, so pretty much I just want to catch all the Fuji users up to speed with how everything in here functions. First off, let's talk about the flashes. This is the TT685, this is a V860 version 2, and you won't find much difference from them on the outside or inside. They both have TTL, they both have high-speed sync, and they both have the same radio connectivity across all their products. There are only two primary differences. The first is that the TT685 runs on AA batteries, whereas the V860 version 2 runs on a lithium-ion battery. This lithium-ion battery is proprietary and needs to be charged separately, but the benefits are that it can fire 600 full power flashes and it can recycle full power in only 2 seconds. Whereas with AA's, it depends on the brand of AA's, but you're not going to get 500-600 flashes at full power, and your recycle time is also going to be 4 to 5 seconds. The other difference is that the TT685 can be used with the power pack that powers the AD360 version 2. So you can get this one to recycle faster using that almost instantly with the AD360, whereas this, you're limited to the power of the lithium-ion battery. There is no power pack option for the V860 version 2. Other than that, everything's going to perform exactly the same, so from here on out you'll see all the information about these flashes is applicable to both of these. First off, let's talk about fit. I mentioned in my TT350 video that I thought the TT350 was an excellent fit, being a smaller flash. Now the V860 version 2 and the TT685, they do fit, but they do also feel a little bit top heavy, especially if you get into putting some type of on-camera modifier on here. It just feels like whichever way you tilt your camera, it's just going to rotate really hard in that, because the camera is so light and so compact, and this flash is just gigantic on it. This is an X-T2 right here, and it almost looks silly on top of it. But the TT350 just isn't a very powerful flash, and a lot of photographers who, especially if they're using Fuji for event work, are going to need something more powerful to keep up with their workflow. Especially when we're getting into high-speed sync and big rooms and recycling. You don't want to be waiting 5-6 seconds for a full power recycle, and this recycles full power in 2 seconds, and that full power is way more powerful than the TT350. So if I were choosing between the TT350 and the V860 version 2, if I planned on getting a lot of power out of my flash that's on camera, then I would definitely go with the V860 version 2, or the TT685 if you prefer the AA batteries. But if you're only going to be using that TT350 on camera for like emergency situations with fill, and otherwise you just want to use it to control your off-camera units, then the TT350 is going to be a better pick for you. Another thing that I went over in my Godox news update earlier this year is that there is now cross-compatibility with these. So if you've already bought into the Godox series like V860s or TT685s for another brand such as Nikon or Canon, now your on-camera masters can control those. So that means all you need is an appropriate Fuji master, which is essentially the TT350F, the X1TF, V860 version 2F, or the TT685F, including manual control, TTL, and high-speed sync on any of those other brands' lights. So again, if you have some of those lying around, then you don't need to go out and buy all new flashes for Fuji. You just need the appropriate master on camera. You can find more details about that cross functionality here. This also brings you into the complete ecosystem of Godox lighting, so any of the 2.4 GHz X series models such as the 8600 and the 8200, even that QT600 version 2 for the studio strobe, you'll have full control of all those lights functionality as long as you're using these as a master for your Fuji. Alright, so now I want to show you how the flash operates. I'm also going to use this opportunity to go over all the features and custom functions of the X1 transmitter, which I'll upload in a separate video as well. First, we'll talk about using one flash as a standalone unit and how you would control it. Alright, this is the main menu of the flash. On and off button is on the bottom right. Down here, the red button you'll find for testing. Mode button will change from TTL to manual to multi or stroboscopic. Zoom function right here will allow you to change from 14 millimeters all the way up to 133. If you notice from using a different V860, these are just essentially crop sensor equivalents to the 20 to 200 range. Holding that button will allow you to go into the custom functions menu. In this custom menu, you can change things like turn the beep on and off, or the light for the screen, how fast that's going to power off, the LCD brightness. So you'll find all the custom functions in there, and you just hit this far right button to get back out of that. Use this button to click for compensation, and then you can use the dial up or down and hit set or start shooting to confirm that. In manual, just moving the dial will adjust the power. When you're in manual, you'll also notice you have a few additional options. Sync is where you can turn high-speed sync on and off. S1, S2 will control its behavior with a pre-flash. Now this far right button allows you to change the radio modes. So on Fuji, one of the changes that they made that I am so excited about and jealous of being a Nikon shooter is that they got rid of the optical slave and optical master menus. So there's only 3 menus on this instead of 4, which you would find on other brands. So this first menu is radio master. The second menu is radio slave. Let's go back to the radio master and bring in a second light. We're gonna move this one to radio slave. So imagine we are setting this up for the first time. We wanna make sure that everything is in the same channel. This one is in channel 1, this one is in channel 1, and we have this one as my external group A. So if I want to modify the power of this flash from this light, I would hit group on the far right, mode to change it into either TTL or manual, and then the third button is my power so that I can adjust the power setting. So you can see when I change and update the power, it's going to update live on here, and it's also aware that the signal is coming from a Fuji camera. So you have control of up to 3 external groups with the Fuji, A, B, and C, as well as control of the M group, which is essentially a master. So it operates very similarly to how it would operate on a Nikon camera. So if I want to control the power of this specific flash, say it's on top of my camera, that's going to be the M group. So if I change mode, this one would function in TTL, whereas my A group would function in manual at 132 power. Now I'm going to flip this one over to slave. We're going to change that to group B. We're going to bring out the Fuji X1T. This is what you want to put on your camera. If you want only off-camera usage, you can have both your flashes off camera, as many flashes as you want off camera, and use this to control all of them. So by default, you just scroll through here to pick which group you want. We're going to turn everything that we're not using off. Hitting mode will cycle between off, TTL, and manual. Now we're left with our groups A and B. Just so we don't get mixed up, I made this A and this B and moved them so it's a little bit more clear. So we're going to switch our A group to 1/128th power, and we're going to switch our B group to full power. As you can see, they are updating live right there. If these are right on top of each other, they don't actually communicate very well. There is a close mode, but we're not going to be using that right now. And I can also switch them both to TTL. I will say with the X1TF, it does seem like they have actually improved the scroll wheel a bit. On my Nikon, it's quite old. It's one of the first X1s to come out, but I find my scroll wheel to be not very accurate, and this one seems perfectly accurate. So that's a huge bonus for the Fuji users. You guys get all the new stuff that they figured out when they messed up with their old products. So since all you Fuji users are just now coming into full capabilities with this Godox series, I'm going to show you everything there is to know about this X1. So again, this command dial just moves you through the groups. And by default, there are 5 groups. You can access the channel by hitting the channel button, and you can modify the channel that you're on. When you pick a group that you want, hit group, and you can change either compensation, or if it were in manual, hitting group would allow you to adjust the power. Mode will allow you to cycle between manual, off, and TTL. On this side, you'll find on-off button for the light, as well as on-off button for the autofocus assist beam. Now let's talk about the custom functions menu. If we hold channel for 2 seconds, we will access the custom function menu. Custom function 0 allows you to adjust the flash timing, so you can actually create a small delay from 0 to 100 milliseconds to delay the flash power. Hitting group allows you to modify this custom function, and from there you can increase or decrease the delay. Some people use this to effectively create hypersync if they're using a different trigger. Other people use it to kind of create that second curtain sync if your camera doesn't have that feature in it already. Hitting group will confirm your choice, and we're going to leave that at 0. Custom function 1 is simply single pin mode. So you can turn the single pin mode on or keep it off. Single pin will only utilize the single pin to transmit the fire signal. It will not do any TTL. Some people use this when using the X1 with a different brand other than what they have, just to eliminate all the TTL functions being communicated. Custom function 2 allows you to change the zoom of your off-camera flashes. Now, in order for your flashes to receive this signal, your flashes must be in auto mode in order for them to receive the zoom that you set here. Custom function 3 controls how the PC sync port operates. So if it's in, then it's going into a camera so that it's essentially ready to receive a signal. And if it's in out, let's change it to out real quick, then it's sending a signal out of the PC sync slot so that you can trigger a flash. Custom function 4 sets up multi-flash. You can see the 3 little lightning bolts right there indicating multiple flashes. So we can turn that on, and if we do that and we leave, now it's going to have a different type of navigation. So hitting mode will switch a group on or off. Holding mode will allow you to modify that specific group for its power output, which is on the top, the time, and the amount of flashes per second, which is what the H stands for with hertz. There's supposed to be a P there. I'm not really sure why there isn't on the Fuji. Custom function 5 is the minimum power setting. You can change this to 1/256, and lights like the 8600 have a minimum power output of 1/256, so this just allows you to reach that, or you can leave it in 1/128 if you're only using it with speed lights. Custom function 6 allows you to modify the AF assist beam on or off. Custom function 7 allows you to choose between 3 or 5 groups, which if you're only using the speed lights, you may as well leave it in 3 groups because there's only 3 groups that you can choose from. So you may as well not spend excess time navigating with the D and E option. However, if you're using an 8600, 8200 and you want all 5 groups, you can leave that on. Custom function 8 modifies the beep on the 8600, whether it's going to be on or off. Finally, custom function 8 chooses whether the 8600's beep is on or off. There's some other functions you can access with some input selections on the X1. The first is the way to control this. So by default, this dial will control navigating through the different groups. But if you don't like that, you can also change it to this. You can hold down the channel button for 5 seconds. So in this mode, the dial will not advance the groups. You have to hit the group button to advance between the different groups. And we've also got it down to only 3 groups right now. Once you hit a group, you can change its mode. When you're active on a group, then you can use the dial to increase or decrease the power, and you can hit OK, channel/OK to exit. Some people prefer that method of controlling and navigating the X1. I like the default option a little bit better. Double-clicking the channel button will turn LED capable lights on and off. So 8600 or 8200, that'll turn the modeling/LED lamp on and off. Lastly, you can hold down groups, and that will select all your active groups and modify them at the same time. This is good if you've got a ratio that you've dialed in. Instead, you can just use this to compensate for any changes that you made to your camera settings and affect all the groups at the same time. Lastly, there's some unique ways to turn the unit on that have different results. So one that I'm going to do by default is holding the channel button and turning on will restore factory defaults. Turn it back off, holding the group button and turning the unit on will show all the LED indicators. And lastly, holding mode and turning it on will display the firmware version in the upper right corner so that you can check if you need an update. One thing I was impressed by is that the Fuji does give you all the options that you would normally get with a Fuji flash in the menu when you have one on camera. So you can control all those options from within the menus if you prefer it that way instead of using the actual flash. Hey guys, just want to touch on this while I'm editing the video. I want to be clear that you can control things such as the power, change the mode from TTL to manual, and also control the zoom head, but you will not be able to control any of the Fuji EFX500 specific features such as the LED catch light or narrow and wide beams. But if you want to control any of the external flashes, you're still going to have to use the flash itself or X1 controller to control the power outputs of anything off camera. So it doesn't take much for me to review these because these are the products that I've been using for over 2 years now. TT685 was the first flash that I had from Godox, and I thought it was an absolute beast. I love that functionality between flashes. And then when the V860 version 2 came out and it had the radio controller with that lithium ion battery, I pivoted to all of those. So I know and love these flashes and have been using them for a long time. So there's nothing that I don't like about those flashes, and I can confidently say that. I will say, the X1 has not been my favorite controller because I felt with my Nikon version of it that the controls were a little bit off, but it seems that they've updated it with this Fuji controller. With mine on Nikon, I knew that when I went up 5 steps, it didn't mean 5 increments in power because it might not have translated perfectly. For this one, it's looking like it's working perfect, so it seems that they've addressed some of those issues. They also addressed something that I didn't like about this, which was that they had 2 optical menus that there was just no purpose in using with radio control as an option. But they got rid of that with the Fuji versions, which I hope is a firmware adjustment that they make to everything else. So I can confidently say that these flashes are durable. All the specs that they list on them are accurate, so you can expect those really fast recycle times on the V860 version 2. And for the price, I think that this is the best speed light on the market. Real quick, I want to shout out Pergear for sending me and keeping me up to date on all this Fuji flash equipment. I've got links to purchase all 3 of these on Amazon direct from Pergear if you're looking for a great seller of these Fuji Godox flashes. If you guys found this video useful, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and share with anybody you think it might help. Feel free to leave any comments, and you can also join my photography gear chat group on Facebook where you can discuss gear with me and thousands of other photographers. And hey, check out my Instagram @RobHallPhoto. Till next time, keep on shooting, YouTube.